you're like me, you spend lots of time poring over maps, looking at weather data, all in an effort to help predict when and where my best times to hunt will be. It'd be nice if there was a reliable source with all this information in one place. Enter the Spartan Forge app. Unlike some other predictive apps on the market, Spartan Forge was created from military combat intelligence experience tailored for hunters, and stands at the nexus of machine learning and whitetail deer hunting. No more man-made algorithms. This is a predictive model based on real GPS-collared deer data, historical and predictive weather, and the next level of mapping imagery, all at my fingertips. I've been using the iOS app this season, and it has replaced all my other mapping tools. Visit SpartanForge.ai and sign up today, or head to your iOS or Android app store. Use the promo code TRUTH to save some money and download it today. Mobile hunters, if you're interested in upping your mobile game, then head to tetherednation.com and check out their saddle gear. There are a few things you can actually buy that will help you become a better deer hunter or give you the freedom to hunt any tree or any situation. This is the reason why I started saddle hunting in the first place and why I use Tethered's gear. I can honestly say that Tethered's saddle gear has changed how I hunt for the better. Big tree, little tree, from the ground, it doesn't matter. I'm untethered by my gear to hunt the best setup for the situation, instead of hunting for a tree that my gear can use. My current core setup consists of the Phantom saddle, tethered one sticks, and the Predator platform, along with an assortment of their accessories. So if you want to up your mobile game, head over to tetherednation.com. Welcome to the Truth from a Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Spartan Forge. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 302. Today I'm joined by my good buddy Chris Derrick to discuss chasing elk, muleys, and his whitetail travel plans. We also talk about the new gear Sitka has released that you'll want to check out, so stay tuned. All right. What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you are doing well. Hope you are feeling fine. The long-awaited opener is here. Finally got out into the deer woods this past weekend, and it felt good. Temperatures could have been a little kinder. Earlier in the week, last week, the early part of the week, man, it was like, I won't say perfect bow hunting temperatures, but perfect for early season where, high of like 68, 69, something like that. Mornings were chilly in the 40s. But we'll take what we can get. I didn't really have an early season, like kind of opener buck that I was after necessarily to be truthful. Still, nothing, that's tripping my trigger here locally that I'm aware of. So yesterday, or I shouldn't say yesterday, the opener, which was Saturday, from my area, at least, I was able to get out, and because I didn't have anything really, a buck that I was chasing per se, the plan was really just to kind of go out. There was a couple cameras I needed to check, and so I was going to do that, leave a little early and make that happen. It was a little bit of a hike. It was like a 2-mile hike to get to the first trail camera. And my thinking was, I'll go check that one, and if there's something good there, on camera or in the general area, then awesome. Maybe I'll just set up there and hunt, just because where this particular camera was, if I was getting a decent buck on there now, it was likely going to be a bed to food kind of play, if you will. Not necessarily near agriculture or anything like that, but just like there is, a destination food source that I'm aware of that's not too awfully far away, and there wasn't anything on it. Truthfully, it was a poorly placed camera by me. A lot of false triggers because of where I hung it, and I hadn't been back to check it since I hung it, which was probably like, man, I don't even know, probably end of March, maybe like middle of April, roughly. So it'd been there for a while, just a ton of false triggers, nothing really to speak of on that camera. I did pull that camera and take just like a little walkabout in the general area, was trying my damnedest to try to find a white oak that might be dropping to kind of, for one, if I found a decent white oak that looked like it had a bunch of deer sign around it, I was probably just going to sit up and hunt that. But two, just kind of looking for a place to set the camera to maybe just get some real quick, a week, maybe 2 weeks worth of inventory, just to maybe, find a buck that I haven't seen yet, on camera that would be worthy of chasing. So did that, didn't really find anything. Found an area that's kind of like a little pinch between some habitat, some brush that kind of some really kind of small trees and some brush. It just kind of made this like little pinch into this area. And so I moved the camera to that spot. We'll see what that kind of brings. It was just kind of a flyer again to see what's happening in that general area. And then I booked it back to the area where I was planning to hunt. It was a little spot that was overlooked, that I don't know how I've overlooked it for the past probably 2 years that I've hunted this one particular piece. And I did a camera pull. I don't remember when that was, maybe the beginning of June, because I set that camera probably sometime in April again, same time I set the previous one, and hadn't been back to check it. I went and checked it in June. There was a couple young bucks that were on it, but nothing that was crazy. And just by the sign that I had seen that was in that general area, I kind of felt like it was probably doe central, and probably a place that would be a little kind of funnel area that would attract deer. There's a hard edge that's created. Really was why I recognized it on the map when the way I really kind of found it is I was looking around on this piece that I had been hunting, had scouted in the past, and was just seeing if there was anything that I overlooked. I had Spartan Forge out and was kind of checking it, and I was looking at the map because their maps are super detailed, and I was able to just kind of pick out like this little line of habitat kind of converging that I kind of missed all the other previous times. And so I made a point to go back there and looked, and there was a bunch of sign that was in there, and it felt like it was probably all like pre-rut and rut sign. There was a bunch of rubs, old historical rubs from years ago, rubs from last year, and pretty definitive trails that kind of ran through this area. And it's just like a ton of greenbrier and stuff like around it. And so it felt to me probably like a really good kind of doe bedding area. And, again, I'm not in an agricultural kind of area, but I'm aware of like an area that deer are using as a destination food source, again, relatively close to this spot. And so it kind of told me that, I might be able to play the bed to food game, potentially, in this particular area, if there's a decent buck in there early season. And so that my plan was to get back in there on the opener and check that camera, and then the wind set up to hunt that area pretty well. Now, the other thing is I did one camera pull, saw a bunch of does and a bunch of young bucks. So the good news is there's a lot of deer kind of using that area. I don't have a whole lot of intel as far as direction of travel. I have that camera set on video mode, so I got an idea of it, but I don't know it 100%. And so I was like, I really just need to kind of go in there on the wind that I had, which I think I remember yesterday was a southwest wind, I want to say. I think it was southwest. Regardless, I had the right wind to kind of go in there based on where I had been seeing deer kind of move from, and then pulled that trail camera card as well to check that, and then actually checked that on Sunday when I had a little bit of time to take a look at it. So needless to say, I set up on the ground because it's so thick in there. Getting into a tree is it's pointless. You have no shooting if you're in the tree. So I was able to kind of tuck back in some brush and set up for the evening, and did not see a single deer. Heard some deer kind of moving around me, just out of sight. Didn't get winded, so that was good. But I think after looking at the trail camera data, and there was two decent bucks that were in there that I got on camera, and for the most part, it feels like it's setting up to be more of a morning spot, at least based on what I'm seeing from the trail camera data. And I had a kind of sneaking suspicion that might be the case. Not saying that you couldn't hunt it in the evening, but for whatever reason, I just feel like I was getting more consistent movement in the morning, and more consistent movement directionally in the morning, that I could actually plan on it and be able to hunt the wind around the movement that I was kind of seeing. In the evening, it felt like it was a little bit more sporadic. And so, I'd have to have probably a northwest wind would be the only wind I could probably hunt, because the only direction, it was in that general direction, that's the one wind that I could probably hunt in the evening and feel like I'm safe and not going to get busted. Now, there could be something on the other side of this kind of area that I may blow out, but just directionally where the deer were coming from, and northwest would be safe all the time. And then a lot of south I could hunt in the morning. I feel like in southwest is what we get a lot of prevailing around here. So that's good. That place at least sets up to be able to hunt that area on the prevailing wind. So the plan is just to kind of let that area, mature a little bit, if you will. I'll probably dive back in there a couple times this year, mainly just to try to learn it. Anytime I don't have a good wind for some of the other spots that are more of my prime areas, I'll probably dive into that spot and just continue to learn it. It felt like the wind was pretty true in there. So yeah, I feel like whatever I'm going to get from a wind direction standpoint, that the weatherman's telling you, it held pretty true in that spot. It got swirly once in a while, but it just, that happens. I've never hunted a spot that the wind stayed true the entire time. That, and I think it was like a 4-mile-per-hour wind yesterday, so it was a little bit variable. So you were going to get a little bit of switching. And then this morning, since I don't have anything, this would be Sunday morning. I got up and went out, checked another trail camera that I hadn't checked. That card was completely full. Some deer on it, nothing to really get me excited. Nothing to get me excited about. I hadn't checked that one since I think I hung that one in like February. There wasn't really anything to get me excited about. The one thing I was really kind of looking for was that area last year had a ton of white oaks that had dropped. In this year, nothing. And so I ended up spending some time in that general area, just kind of looking, trying to find a white oak. I mean, I was finding white oaks, but I did not find a single one that was dropping, because I was like, I just need to find the one that's dropping, and that's where I'll hunt. But to no avail. Wasn't able to locate one. So I ended up coming out of there, and then there was one other camera I needed to hang in this little kind of swampy area. And so I bombed into that area, hung that camera, and I hung a camera there last year, and there's some dates associated with this particular spot where all of a sudden things just kind of turned on for like a 3-day period. And it's interesting because it's actually different dates than the other dates that I use in some of my other spots. It's maybe like 4 or 5 days later. And so I'm kind of waiting for that spot to kind of pick up, but it's also an area that I can hunt some does and stuff like that. And it'll be a ground hunt. There isn't squat for trees that are around there, because it's all in this like swampy area that, I mean, the biggest tree might be at the bottom as big around as one of my thighs. Maybe. That would be about the biggest. But with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's show. We're going to continue to give it hell this season. Good luck to everybody who's out there. If you field a tag this weekend, you lucky son of a gun, you. If you didn't, keep grinding, getting after it. We're just at the beginning. The best is yet to come. But with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's show. I have my buddy Chris Derrick on. You guys know him. He's been on a couple different times in the past. Chris is the guru of all things whitetail at Sitka Gear. And we talked today. He had a successful elk hunt recently in Montana. He had a killer close encounter. He and his son actually with a good muley buck out there as well. And then we talk a little bit about his plans. He's going to do some traveling this year. Oh, he travels every year to an extent, but he's got some specific hunts kind of planned for this fall. Chasing some whitetails in some different states, chasing some whitetails in Canada. So we talk a little bit. We talk a little bit about that, and we also, of course, because he is the guru of all things Sitka gear related to whitetail gear, we talk about the new stuff that Sitka has that had just dropped, or that Sitka had just dropped recently. Word to the wise: if you're looking for an insulation layer that is super lightweight and kicks ass, I would take a look at the Ambient line, specifically the Ambient jacket. I have mine, and it is like a primo piece of my kit. And I also talk a little bit about my layering system and what I kind of use. I mean, truth be told, I've got as a lot of us probably do, we got a ton of kit, and the reality is I probably use 5 pieces, and those 5 pieces will take me from, now basically, or just say October 1st through as late as I want to hunt into January, into late season. And so I kind of talk a little bit about my layering system and what I'm actually using to get me from beginning of the season all the way to the end. And it's very kind of limited, a very limited setup that for me at least is efficient, bulk free, light, and just very streamlined. And I can kind of add and take pieces out as I need to for whatever the conditions are and whatever state I'm in. So with that, I appreciate all you guys joining me. Good luck in your hunting endeavors. Hopefully you guys are shooting straight, filling some tags. And as always, I want to thank you all for listening. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Truth from the Stand podcast. And this almost is becoming like a twice a year type of episode, and it's always one of my favorite to do. I have my buddy on, Mr. Chris Derrick of Sitka Gear. He is the whitetail product guru. And when I'm talking to him, The reason I get excited is because I'm a little bit of a gear nerd. So that usually means there's new gear and I've been able to play with some new things. And I always kind of geek out and get ready to talk to Chris about all the new stuff they have going on. But before we do that, how's it going, man? How you been?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet, man. I know we're kind of making a habit out of this now, man. It's I get some cool things to kind of look at, play with, and then I get all excited and I get to talk to you and get like all the deets on what went into all this stuff and like I kind of get a chance to play around with it. So I kind of have an idea how I would use it, and then I get the professional version of how it was intended to be used. maybe one way to say it. But how's your summer been, man? What's new in your world?
Not much. I pretty much do the same thing as working and getting ready for hunting season. So, and then just managing the little bit of property that we have here, which is a never-ending task. So,
Yeah.
that's I'm sure anybody that owns property can relate to that.
Right. So I know the last time we talked, you, if I'm not mistaken, got rid of llamas, right? So the llamas were gone.
They were, yeah, definitely had we had alpacas, which is a
Alpacas,
little
that's
bit
right. Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, we just run a couple of mini Dexter beef cattle, and then some horses that we keep on our property. So that's all the animals that we essentially have now, other than a few chickens. So.
Right. Yeah. And horses are a lot of work, man. My daughter takes equestrian lessons. She's super into it. She absolutely loves horses, and she's there as often as she can go. And she volunteers at the barn to go in and just like clean stalls and whatever, just because she likes to be around the animals. And dude, I mean, my grandfather had horses too, and those are just a ton of work. I would love to have a horse, because I like to ride too. But when I think about it logistically, I'm like, man, all the care that has to go into them, and then you have to ride them every day, don't you?
You don't need to ride them every day. I mean, we've got some that are, that we also board some horses here. So,
Okay.
some are more, I guess, senior horses, so they don't get ridden quite as much. And then we've got others that get ridden, multiple times a week. But yeah, one of the best things for horses that I ever heard is they definitely eat money and poop work. So.
Yeah. Oh man, that is a great saying. I've heard my grandfather used to say that too. Are you using them at all to do any like backcountry hunting? Because I'll tell you what, like when I was in Idaho, some of that terrain was just gnarly as far as how steep it was. And my buddy and I were just kind of kicking around at camp the one night. I was like, man, I would love to do a backcountry hunt on horseback just to make some of the traversing, some of this terrain just a little bit easier. So I mean, do you do that with any of your horses, or is that something you consider doing?
No, we don't really have pack horses. It's
Okay.
something I would consider. But actually, on the subject of llamas, I did call at one point, and I was started looking at those pack llamas because they certainly did seem like they were pretty nice. That you could take them back and didn't have to carry in much food or hay. They pretty much ate their way across. So that always seemed interesting. Because yeah, bringing in pack horses is also a lot of work in itself. So.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. So llamas aren't as finicky when it comes to what they eat. They'll just kind of eat whatever. Is that
I can't say that I'm an expert, but I did watch a couple of Newberg episodes on it, and it did intrigue me. So.
right? Yeah. I think I remember seeing. I don't know if I saw the episode or if it was just when he was talking about it on a podcast. I remember him talking about because he had a buddy, if I'm remembering the story correctly, that you like to use llamas, and he was skeptical of it, where he was like, I don't know about this. And then I think the moral of the story is like now he just would prefer to hunt with llamas all the time, if I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds about right. It sounds like most whitetail hunters in saddle hunting for mobile hunts. So.
I know, right? It's like, I don't know about this fang dangled thing here. You got to get up into a tree and hang from a diaper. I don't know if it'll work. And then they try it and they're like, oh man, I don't know why I haven't done this sooner. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but have you gotten out to do any elk hunting this year? Well, let me ask you this, man. When I was out there out west, there were like no fires anywhere. And then when I left, there were a bunch of fires. So what's the fire situation out there right now?
There's quite a bit. It looks like pretty much all of Upper Idaho and Western Monday looks like one big fire when you look at it on the fire maps. But
Right.
we did get a little rain for the first time in a long time last night. But it's been a pretty mild fire season, we really haven't had much smoke to speak of until maybe the last 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and it just got caught up to us. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were supposed to do this Monday, but our
Yeah.
I had to change some things because definitely smoke was canceling a lot with my kids' practices and stuff here
Right.
in Montana. So
Yeah. The when I was in Idaho, there was, like I said, there were no fires when I got there. And when I got there, my buddy was like, I can't believe it, because he was just monitoring it the whole time up until I got there, because he was just worried that I was going to get there and we were going to have to deal with, change course and go somewhere else other than where we were planning to go because of fires or whatever. And I don't remember what day it was. I remember, well, the day we were kind of driving into where we were going to park the truck at the trailhead to hike in to camp. I smelled smoke as we were driving by, and I was like, "Oh, do I smell smoke?" And I saw like this little plume over there, and then sure enough, just once we got on the high peak of where we were camping, we could see down there was like a small plume, and then there was like a helicopter coming over, dropping water on it or whatever, and that one kind of extinguished pretty quickly. And then maybe 2 or 3 days later, so this would be about that 2 week time frame you're kind of talking about. Um, there was just, we were hunting and we actually had some elk that were behind us. I could hear them in the timber behind us, and all of a sudden this storm rolled in and you could just hear the wind coming, and all of a sudden the wind switched and we had to get out of there because now the wind was wrong for us. But as we were walking out, just like a crazy lightning storm started happening, just like summer heat lightning, and we got like a couple sprinkles of rain, but just like crazy lightning cracking. And then literally when we got back to service and we could actually kind of look on the map and see what was going on the next day, it went from no fires to where there was like 100 fires all around us. Basically, I think just from like the lightning strikes and so forth from the lightning storm and from the rainstorm that kind of rolled through. So that was probably about the same time frame where you guys kind of got it too, because it was all that northern Idaho area.
yeah, it started happening around opening weekend, which is September 4th. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were on our way back from hunting for mule deer in eastern Montana and got to about Helena, and it was pretty much pure smoke from there on out. So
Right. How was your mule deer hunt?
we didn't close the deal on one, but it was my 14-year-old son's first archery hunts.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, he's now progressed into that, and it was great. We had the area we're opening or hunting is very very open, kind of like Badlands
Hmm.
looking areas. If any of you know what that looks like, and so you're essentially looking for mule deer with spotting scopes, and then you're waiting till mid morning and waiting for them to go to bed
Hmm.
on typically on a slope that winds up in the shade for the afternoon, and then they'll move a little bit into the shade. So we had seen some bucks which were 140 to 150 class bucks, which for it's a really good mule deer for
Yeah.
your first buck. And so we put them to bed and gone over the top. He and I came back down, pulled off our boots, started stalking down on these two mule deer that were bedded down, and got between, we got 20 yards was one, and then 40 yards was the other.
Mhm.
And I said, that's as far as we can go, because the angle we were looking at for them, we'd gone any further, we wouldn't been able to make up any elevation to
Mhm.
get a better angle on them. So we just sat there, and we'd been sitting there for about 15 minutes, and my buddy was up above us looking down, and the wind switched and his scent came down, and they stood up, but they didn't know we were there. And
Mhm.
the one that he wanted to shoot basically stepped out and had sagebrush covering his vitals,
Oh
and
man.
Cole was at full draw at 25 yards, 30 yards.
Huh.
But and then they just blew out of there before he could actually get a shot. But
Right.
very
Wow.
exciting hunt, yeah,
Yeah.
for us.
For sure, man. So I got to ask, like, who was more nervous, you or him or Dad?
I think he was. He
Okay.
was definitely. I mean, he was shaking as soon as it ended. So, but it's always fun to watch a kid go through that. Last year, he had an experience where, and we've all done this if you've ever hunted in a blind, but he went to full draw on a deer, that was his first time, and he shot the front of the blind, not getting over the top. So,
Right.
and I've done that myself. So,
Right, right. Yeah, I mean if you do these things long enough, man, you make all the mistakes, you know. So
yes.
it's the good news is you can tell him he's got that one out of the way now. Put that one in the book, and it'll be a memory and a story. That's awesome, man. Do you guys have plans to get back out? Are you guys going to head back to that same area, or what's the plan for that?
Yeah, we'll definitely go. And then I tagged out on my elk this past weekend. So
Oh,
as soon
nice.
as we get done with the podcast, I'll be going just to break up the quarters and get them packaged and vacuum sealed. So
Oh, nice, man. So give me that story. Where was what area were you? I'm assuming Montana, and how'd that all shake out?
yeah, it was just hunting with some friends and some very very dark timber. And for us, what we were in, it's super thick. I mean, if you can get shots in the plus 50-yard range, that would be something. So a couple of bulls had come down the hill. These were all satellite bulls, but they all rolled out in front of me, and I wound up with about a 35-yard shot, and it was a little bit back from where I wanted based off the shot. So we backed out because I've definitely lost a bull by going in too early, thinking I had a better shot, and let him sit overnight. Came back the next morning, which turned out to be the right move. He only went 100 to 150 yards, and then so we broke him down the next morning. So that's what we that's trying. I've definitely figured if time is the way you want to give it before moving in on them.
Right. So is this pretty typical for you as far as like early season success for, oh, I shouldn't say early season. Well, I guess you guys opened the fourth, so it would be still considered, I guess, early season for you guys. Is that pretty typical for you? I mean, do you usually find and get into elk pretty quickly?
I'm fortunate that I would say I'm not an elk hunting expert. I am an eastern guy that moved west, but
Right.
I've definitely started to figure it out over the couple of years, and I typically know where to go, but it just takes time.
Yeah.
And the success rate is low, and then once you get things figured out, it becomes a little bit easier.
Right.
But
What was the thing that you had to that you feel like that you needed to figure out, or once you started to better understand it, like you started to have like more consistent encounters, or you started to kind of better understand where they wanted to be and why they wanted to be in those areas?
for me, it was you're exactly right. It's just understanding where they are that time of year. Because if
Mm.
I go to where I'm hunting now, within 3 to 4 weeks from now, there won't be a single elk in the area. There could be a one occasionally moving through,
Hmm.
but they're pretty much gone. So right now they're really focused in the area I'm hunting in, and these northern slopes, dark timber, going down into private,
Hmm.
and then coming back up into public and sitting in the dark timber for the day.
Hmm.
So that's typically where I found them, sitting on the saddles and those types of things. But I'm sure you can have somebody that'll come on that's way more versed in elk hunting than I am. I
Right.
am a whitetail guy that has learned to elk hunt.
Right, right. I'm kind of in the same boat. Only, I get I get a couple days a year to maybe try it. I'm curious, were they doing some talking for you at least? Because I know whenever I was out, Idaho opens a little earlier. I think the season opened on like I want to say the 29th of August, and I was there for the opener. And the whole week that I was there, I did not hear one single bugle being the entire time, which I don't think is really out of the norm because that's a pretty early opener, I guess. But did you hear any talking? Did that whenever you were out?
Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
were definitely screaming for us. So
nice.
it was everything you'd be wanting for. It's hard to tell what sometimes are other hunters, but I know I did have a hunter to my left. I have no doubt, based off
Right.
the chuckle I heard, that was not an elk.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean the last time I was in Montana to hunt elk, it was a blast, and I was out I want to say right about now was when I was out. I want to say I got there around like the 9th or 10th, and I stayed for 2 weeks, and so I heard a lot of bugling on on that trip, but this last trip to Idaho. If I had to do it over again, I'd probably have waited maybe 2 weeks, or maybe not because of all the fires. Who knows? It might have been worse. But um, I guess the thing I found that was just really hard was that northern Idaho was way thicker than where I had elk hunted in south western Montana previously, and so there was really no glassing opportunity to speak of, and they weren't talking at all, and so it was a lot of just almost like you would still hunt whitetails. My buddy Wilson, who lives there, did a good job of kind of locating some herds, like where they wanted to spend time and where they wanted to bed. And so we basically just kind of crept around their bedding areas. And so, for not knowing a whole lot, we ended up, hearing elk pretty much. When I say hearing elk, we could hear them in the timber behind us, but, that timber is so thick, there might be 40 yards away and you can't see them. And so we were always close enough to hear them moving, hear them kicking rocks, hear them walking. And we had an encounter once where we had elk at 5 yards where they were just like on top of us. And it was like, I don't even know how many of them it was. It was like 7, 8 of them. I don't know, somewhere between 7 and 10 elk, within that range. And that was on the first day too. So other than that, it's like we didn't see another elk at, close range or at shootable range the rest of the trip.
Yeah, well, it definitely can go that way, but it's still a fun experience, I'm imagining.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was just like, being an Eastern guy, you can appreciate this since, you're originally an Eastern guy, just getting to go West and seeing everything that it has to offer, just like landscape and the how big everything is. And just, I just always kind of appreciate feeling small. You know what I mean? When I get there, just like the grandiose nature of everything around me, and really kind of puts in perspective of like my place in the ecosystem, so to speak, which is always a nice thing for the ego check, and a little bit of humility. So, and a little bit of humility in terms of not, coming home with a tag too. So we'll try harder next time. But what's your whitetail plans for this year, man? Have any plans to come back east, or you got to be planning to stay out west to do most of your whitetail hunting this year?
I'm going to be hunting with a buddy in Missouri. I'll take a trip up to Canada, and then I usually find a way to get back to like the southeast where I'm originally from, and hunt Georgia or Alabama or South Carolina. One of those three. But those, I won't have much more time to go than any of those places. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Missouri, and really looking forward to Canada this year. So.
Nice. Have you been to Canada before to hunt whitetails?
Oh, I have.
Yes,
multiple times. I usually
nice.
try and get up there every other year or so if I can, to be able to hunt. It's a great place, just to get in and
Mm-hmm.
and be able to hunt, and it's it's not too far away from me here in Montana. So
Right. Is it now? What time of year are you headed to Canada?
I'll typically go in November. Early to late November is when we typically go to Canada. So yeah, that's where I always like to go, and it's quiet and cold, and it gets cold early. So
Yeah.
that's a wonderful area.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's the temps going to be around that time of year? That's going to be, they start to get pretty frigid at that time of year, I'm expecting, right?
Well, I've faced in November anything from -30 to above freezing. So there's a very wide range of about 60 degrees that you basically face.
So you're basically taking every piece of gear you own.
I definitely have a good layering system from light base layers all the way to a Fanatic, and
Right.
then some.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's like, hey, if you're not happy with the weather when you wake up, just wait a couple hours, it'll change. Right. It's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of that plan. What time frame you headed to Missouri? Missouri is a place I've been to once and absolutely loved it, and I keep trying to get back there. And every year, like this year, I was going to go back this year, because I have a great spot that I love, that I kind of stumbled onto the last time I was there and had some encounter with some killer deer. But I put in for a Kansas tag again this year, and I didn't have any points. I just did it on a whim because last year I had a couple really close encounters and just couldn't quite seal the deal. I had multiple bucks at, within bow range, and one I was at full draw on. And so I was like, what, if I can draw a Kansas tag, I guess I want to go back and try to redeem myself. I didn't think I was going to draw because I had no points. I ended up trying to get it, and I got the unit that I wanted and ended up drawing the tag. So if I didn't get it, I was going to go back to Missouri. So, oh, woe is me, I got to go to Kansas this year, but I'm looking for an opportunity at some point soon to get back to Missouri. So what time of year you headed there?
I'll be going late October. I have a friend, Mike Herbst, that runs a guide operation, and he was kind enough to invite me to come up there, and so I'll be able to go with him. But he runs a good program out of there, and and I'm looking forward. I've not hunted his area before, so this is going to be interesting to go in and see exactly what's in there.
Yeah, see what's happening. What part of Missouri is that happening in?
He is over. He's kind of in the central part of Missouri, but he's not that far from Iowa.
Okay.
So that's one of the best things about that area. I think you get some of the pros of Iowa, but with a little bit easier to get
Tag.
from a tag
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of why when I went to Missouri, um, it was actually like a tethered thing that we were doing, and they were filming some stuff, and they were basically like, "Hey, pick a state you want to go to, and we just want to send a camera guy with you." And I was like, "Well, let's go to Missouri. It's borders Iowa, and we'll see what happens." And so I did stick around some of the public pieces that were close to Iowa, and as you would expect, there was a fair amount of pressure on those pieces. You can still find some like little nooks and crannies, but then I ended up happening onto a little spot that one of the guys, well, actually the camera guy that was with me, he's from Missouri, but he's from like southern Missouri. But his cousin happened to live, we'll just say like central Missouri-ish. And we were leaving the second piece of public that we had hunted, and we were looking on the map trying to find another place to go. And he was like, "Well, let me call my cousin and see if he's got any tips on places that might be like overlooked or whatever." And so he called him, and he gave us a tip that basically is just like it's a piece of public that you wouldn't know about, that you really wouldn't know about, and that only really the locals know about it. And so I was like, that sounds perfect. And he was like, they pull big deer out of it every year. And so we went, and it was with my buddy Chad, and we had within 36 hours, because we had to. Chad and I were going to Ohio at the end of that trip, whether we tagged out or not. And we were at that piece in Missouri for, I want to say, a total of 36 hours. He saw a 160-inch deer within the first 30 minutes. He missed a 130-inch deer, had another encounter with that same 130-inch deer the following morning. I saw a 150-inch deer within like the first hour of being in the woods, and then I ended up hitting a decent buck on the next morning, and then never being able to find it. And that was all within like 36 hours of being there.
Well, that sounds like you found a great spot. So.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll let you know where that's at off. Like once we're done recording, we won't broadcast that.
Yeah, that's the one to keep secret right there.
Right, exactly. Well, cool, man. Well, speaking of getting geared up for the season, dude, I know you guys have been busy. Sitka's been busy launching a bunch of new stuff this past summer, and I think I shouldn't say the last articles, but the most recent articles I think actually dropped as we were kind of speaking this week. And so I just wanted to get you on and talk about what's new for fall. So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of give the rundown, like at the high level, what's new for fall. And then I have some of the garments here that I just want to kind of look at and give us a chance to kind of talk about each line and what's kind of changed or what is new with the line specifically. Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So give me the rundown. So what was new for the hunter this year? Because I know you guys have a lot of lifestyle stuff that you guys do as well, but for the hunter specifically, what is new and intriguing that came out this fall that's available for folks now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one we talked a little bit about last time, but I always like it since we're in early season whitetail right now. Everybody's dealing with seed ticks and those types of things. Is the Equinox Guard. So whether or not you're looking for something in elevator or subalpine, that is a system that I at the very least suggest people take a look at if you're hunting in a high tick concentration area, utilizing the pant. And so I've not had a tick in many years, so that one's always a good one just for starting out early season. I know we talked about that last time, but definitely one that I encourage people to look at.
Yeah, and I usually get ticks every turkey season. I got no ticks this year using that. And I'm glad you actually brought that up because I wanted to make a point to mention it because my season actually starts this weekend. We have an early opener here and it's going to be warm. And so that's actually my go-to for early season for that specific reason. I hunt a lot of low-lying areas with water, swamps, mosquitoes, things like that, along with ticks. And so that is actually, it pulls double duty for me. It doubles as like my turkey kit for the same reason. And then also my early season whitetail kit as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And after so many people, I call it the buddy effect, have the same story.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get any, but yeah, so and so did, and he didn't, and so now he's going to get it.
Right. So, exactly.
So that's a great piece. And then earlier this summer, the Jetstream is that we relaunched that family. So that the Jetstream jacket and vest is now available in Elevated 2. So if you're looking for something, a lot of people are familiar with the Stratus family of so that's your brush fleece, windstopper, and then a micro fleece backer. So a very versatile piece. If you're looking for something that's maybe has a smooth face, if you're in maybe a high burr pickup area, the Jetstream jacket. So if you're not, super particular about having a harness port in the back or anything along those lines, the Jetstream jackets, similar to your Stratus in form, new, quieter textile than the old Jetstream, but a similar product form that to that of the Stratus.
Right. Yeah.
For Windstopper.
And I have the Jetstream jacket here in my hand now. And that was the one thing that I kind of noticed about it because, I do hunt in a lot of areas where I pick up burrs. I wear the crap out of my Stratus stuff. But this is definitely going to come in handy for that. And the other thing is too that I really actually liked this because actually it was in my kit when I went to Idaho just as, for a morning wear piece whenever it might be a little chilly in the morning, is that a lot of times, you put something on, like you need something in the morning, or maybe you need the ability to kind of cool off or vent some heat. And a lot of times you get these pieces of kit, outside of maybe rain gear that don't really have vents and stuff. And that was the one thing I really kind of liked about this jacket was that it actually has like the armpit vents and stuff like that built into it, like you would expect from a rain piece that you don't often get when you get like a full kind of, a full jacket, so to speak. So I thought that was really kind of slick and smart, especially for the mobile hunter who's going to be kind of on the go and on the move. I think that would really come in handy.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And a lot of people ask me Stratus or Jetstream, and I would say it depends on your situation. So if you're somebody that wants like ultra quiet, like micro fleece face, and the ability to run a harness out of the back of the jacket with a constant connect safety harness port, the Stratus is probably where you're going to want to go. Like you said, if you're maybe in a super high burr pickup area, and you're looking for a smooth face textile, but in a similar format, both really versatile pieces, that Jetstream might be the right fit for you. So those are ones just to take a look at and figure out which of those two pieces is right for you.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I know I've seen the vest and I imagine it's made similarly to this, just not obviously with sleeves. And this to me is like that perfect, like this jacket to me, if you have the right layer, like you could get through rut, in my opinion, probably with this jacket if you wanted to. And the vest to me would be like a great kind of mid-season and then even a layer as you get into the later part of the season if you wanted to go to the vest route. And I'm always a fan of kind of light vests to use as like my main outer layer during a large part of the season and then just layer under it and then it becomes an under layer whenever it gets really cold. So yeah, the Jetstream I think kind of fits a lot of functions between the vest and the jacket for sure.
Yeah, and the Stratus, I normally tell, depending on your cold nature, the Stratus and Jetstream, like I said, like you're perfectly right. Like unlayered, definitely down in the 40s, with some wind and those types of things. Just those jackets over a like a Fanatic hoodie or whatever base layer set you had up, and then when I layer appropriately with lofted insulation, I can get down in when the mornings are starting out in the upper teens and then maybe warming up into the 20s or low 30s. Those are garments, if layered appropriately, can get you into those conditions. So
Yeah.
either way, Stratus or Jetstream, but those layered, you can figure you should be able to get down into the 20s or teens, depending on your cold nature for the mornings, and then where they're not going to be getting above 40 or 50 in the day.
Right.
That range, you'll be great with those
Right.
properly layered.
Yeah, and what I love about them too is like the way the layering kind of works is that you still stay, bulk free for the most part. Where it doesn't, you don't feel like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So it's not like you're putting 30 layers on. You're putting some very kind of strategic and specific layers on to kind of accomplish that, which is what I kind of love about the systems you guys have. Cool. So let's talk about. So the other thing that came out, I'm gonna save my favorite for last. I want to talk about the Traverse next. I think the Traverse. So what was new in the Traverse? I have a hoodie here. So what else was in the line that came out this past fall?
Yeah. So the Traverse. Traverse, a lot of people, maybe if you're a whitetail hunter, maybe you remember the old Equinox hoodie, not the Equinox Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe remember the Traverse cold weather hoodie, or if you're a waterfowl hunter, you might have known the Gradient.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those would be like a smooth face textile that's bonded to like a high gauge Berber knit backer. So they're non-windstopper, but fairly warm pieces. And so it was a little bit confusing sometimes for people, how broad the line is.
Mm-hmm.
So that Traverse family gives you basically a non-windstopper solution that's, pretty warm with a smooth face textile and that high gauge Berber backer. And so they've all merged into one family, and that's available in a hoodie, a jacket, a bib, and then there's the pant's not made of the same material, but it's the pant. There's a glove, a hat,
Mm-hmm.
and a beanie that all go along with those, and then several women's styles as well of the hoodie as well. So those are some ways to be able to get a great system, either adding on to your existing kit if you need a piece or two, or if you're looking just to get into Sitka, the Traverse is a great place to start.
Right. Yeah, I'm holding the hoodie here in my hand, and for this piece specifically, I looked at it and went like, I mean, it's the warmth of this thing is pretty ridiculous for as light as it is, to be quite honest. And the way I would kind of describe it to people that are listening is like if you have your favorite zip up hoodie on the planet that you've been wearing for forever, but it's paper thin and it's cold as all get out whenever you wear it. This is that thing, but warm is how I kind of looked at it. Cause I'm always wearing like a zip up hoodie, whether I'm like outside doing work or whatever the case is, but it's never warm enough. I always have to layer, and this thing kind of solves that. And so for me, I was like, man, this is that perfect kind of piece where if I don't really want to put anything else on and I just want to throw like one thing on over top of like a Fanatic hoodie, I could literally get away with this and probably get down to the 40s and just rock this thing if I really wanted to. I feel like it's that warm. I mean, is that a fair assessment of it?
It is. And then, like we mentioned before, is like, what is it? It's essentially an outerwear piece, but it can be worn as a mid layer if you need it to be.
Yep.
So you'll see some thumb loop kind of design that's built into the cuff. That's so that you could take it and layer it under, like we were talking about, Stratus or Jetstream, as those types of pieces. And then, or you could add that vest you were talking about, like a Stratus or Jetstream vest on top,
yep,
to be able to add windstopper to it. So you basically can build it into your system. And I always tell people, this is one of the things is look at what you already have in your kit. You probably don't need more than 2 hoods.
right.
So the Traverse is available in jacket and a hoodie. Like if you already have enough hoods, like I always say, I need another hood, like I need a hole in the head. I don't.
Right.
I don't need a whole lot. So figure out how you want to do your hood system, and figure out whether or not a jacket or a hood. But I would say the max you want is a lightweight hood with then maybe an outerwear hood piece, and that's it. Don't buy a bunch of kits and then have like 3 hoods deep. you're probably going to have,
Right.
you're not going to have an ideal experience.
Right, right. You're gonna have like a neck roll looking like a middle linebacker from the '70s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's awesome. The one thing that I actually got really excited about this, to be quite honest, was that when I got it initially, my mind. I mean, I initially was like, man, this would fit great. You know, whether I'm wearing a vest over top of it or whatever from a layering perspective. But a lot of times my kit, because I wear a lot of Stratus stuff, and like you were mentioning, it's like the front of it will pick up some burrs and stuff like that. And so when I'm scouting and stuff like that in the postseason, a lot of times I have to go to like whatever hoodie I have laying around my house, that I'm willing to just to kind of truck through the briars and stuff with. When I picked this up, I was like, this not only is going to work like during hunting season because I got a solid piece, I have a black piece, which I always kind of like. I dig solids. And so I immediately was like, man, this is going to be my go-to like winter hoodie that I will wear to do camera checking, do any type of postseason scouting, because it's just heavy enough on those cold days in the winter that I can throw this on with like a thermal base layer underneath of it, or a good base layer underneath of it, and be good to go. Or if it's just slightly warmer, I can throw a t-shirt on, or like a thin t-shirt, long sleeve shirt on underneath of this thing, and be able to go out and scout and be able to rock and roll. I'm not going to pick up a ton of burrs, and I'm not going to be too hot. And so to me, this was like, I saw it and I was like, man, this is a workhorse piece. Like I can actually get a lot of use out of this piece outside of the season. So I was stoked on that.
Yeah, it's surprisingly durable. I've been throwing hay in the mornings with that on for 2 years, and my jacket still looks great. So it's pretty durable for what it is. And then all the textiles we moved have moved all into recycled textiles.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll notice, like on some of the zipper constructions, we got rid of some of the overlaid films, and that's really so that if you were to ever break a zipper, it's a lot easier to repair. So those
Nice.
are also things we're trying to do because we don't want this stuff going in the landfill. Where we want is be able to take it in, be able to get it repaired, because there's no reason you should ever have to throw away a jacket because a zipper broke, in my opinion. So.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Good, and that's a good point too. And that's the argument I always kind of make. Whenever you buy good gear, and it's one of those things where it's going to last a long time. People will ask me about the kit that I have now, and I'm like, man, I'm still wearing the same Stratus pants. This will be the sixth season of these Stratus pants, and I don't baby my stuff. It's like I beat it up. I was like, and once they're washed, they look like they're new. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if you get good stuff and you semi take care of it, you're gonna have it for a long time. So
Absolutely.
awesome. So my next favorite, my favorite piece. Is there anything else I want to go to the Ambient line next, because this was the line that I was like, I'm a sucker for like Primaloft. So like I nerd out on this, and I kind of geek out on it. I was actually talking to my buddy from Tethered. He's equally as nerdy about puffies as I am. So we literally geeked out on it the one day together. So before I jump into this, is there anything else aside from the Ambient line that we need to cover? I know there's a Mountain Optics harness that's coming out in a new pattern as well, right?
Yeah, we did bring the optics harness out. You can now get it in elevated too. So if you're looking for a bino harness case in that pattern, that's now available. But yeah, I know your same excitement on this next Ambient launch.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, if you want, we can go in. If you're familiar with the Celsius MIDI,
Yep.
this is a substantial upgrade to that product.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. So I'll say this. So I had some buddies that reached out to me, and they were just, we were talking kit, and, they were adding to their kit, and they were like, hey, is there anything from Sitka that, I'm going to buy like one piece or whatever? Or I think they needed they were asking me what my layering system was. And I went through how I layered my top, and I kind of gave them the approach that I take. And, and they asked, well, and they were missing kind of like the puffy piece, right? Like, because I use a puffy piece under my Stratus vest. That's kind of what I rock all year round with one kit, and I'm usually good. I can just add in one to three pieces depending on the top, depending on the temperature, and that'll get me through pretty much the entire season. And so whenever he asked me, I was like, dude, I'm gonna tell you, I was like, if I were going to get anything for layering for this year, I was like, I would get the Ambient jacket. You will not be disappointed. I was like, I think this. I'm not gonna lie, man. I might have slept with it one night whenever I got it. I'm not gonna lie, but without further ado, give people a rundown on what the Ambient line is and what makes it so freaking rad and different, and then I'll wax poetic about why I'm so stoked about it.
Yeah, so this is your puffy replacement. It's going to be exceptionally quiet, and it's really an active insulation that breathes a lot when you're moving, but then does a great job of keeping you warm. It's deceivingly warm when you wear it. So the advantage of this type of insulation is normally a puffy jacket. You've got your face fabric, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got your lofted insulation, and then you've got a liner textile. So you've got 3 layers of textiles, 2 on the outside to contain your insulation. What's different about the style of insulation that we're using here, this Primaloft insulation, is it's both the insulation and the liner in one. So you're not going to actually see a drop liner inside of the garment. You're going to see this really open looking, like kind of like a fleece design that you can sort of see through but can't really see through. That's the best way I would think to describe it for people that have not seen it. And so the advantage of that is it breathes really well when you're moving, and then when you sit there, it actually provides a deceivingly amount. So this is the one piece that I, like we were talking about, I will wear it earlier in the season for when just the temperatures are cooling. It's going to stay in my pack for that. Later season, it's going to go under my Stratus jacket, for example, as my puffy piece to add insulation. And that's how I'm getting down into the teams. So I've got a good base layer, and then I've got that puffy piece, and then I've got my wind stopper on my outer shell. And those pieces all together allow me to really create a super versatile season or system that allows me to get through the season in most places.
Yeah.
I would say into the 20s. Maybe teens, depending on how cold temperatures are, all the way up into warm temps.
Yeah. So so I have the jacket. What all does the Ambient line consist of? So there's the jacket. I think there's a hoodie, if I'm not mistaken, as well, right?
Yes, there's a jacket and hoodie. So these are actually 2 products that John Barklow, my counterpart, and I were both working on. So I was updating the Celsius midi jacket. And it was really designed for really focus on like the stationary whitetail hunts, right? So that piece in the jacket format is going to have 150 grams of insulation. It's a piece that's a full zip front, so it's really easy to take on and off. So you can adapt your insulation to moving if you need to take it on and off, which we typically do in those types of situations. And then there's a hoodie, which is less grams of insulation, more in the 100-gram range. So what you're looking at, and that's a pullover design with like a half zip.
Right.
So I would say, depending on your end use, you can pick the right product. If you're looking for something that's got a little bit extra insulation, but still has a lot of the benefits of that mobile insulation, the jacket might be where you want to go. But if you're going to not be taking it off, for more ranges, and you're looking for that hood, that's why the hoodie is built in that different form.
Right. And to your earlier point, for everyone out there listening, like as you're thinking about building your kit, think about the number of hoods you have and what you might need to add if this is something, that you want to add to your kit. So the thing that I was most stoked about, so my layering system for the top, typically 9 times out of 10 is, just my normal Sitka long sleeve base layer, synthetic. And then I will use a Fanatic hoodie over top of that. And then from there, it depends on what time of season it is. Sometimes I'll just rock the Fanatic hoodie. If I'm earlier, maybe say very early October, as it gets a little cooler, I'll throw on just my Stratus vest over top of it. And then as the temps start to dip, if I need another layer, what I've historically used was I think it was the Celsius midi jacket. And this is now what I'll use for that. And that's what I was most stoked about, because I was kind of going back and forth between that and, depending on how cold it was, using a Kelvin Light jacket as well, because I really like that. I really like that puffy. But this thing is just so small, so sleek, and bundles up into like literally nothing to stuff in your pack, and is so lightweight. And the fact that I do typically move a lot, so the fact that this is kind of, active insulation is just is brilliant. And so that this is actually going to become my new insulation layer for this season. And it's sometimes I'll literally just kind of throw my Fanatic hoodie on, and I'll run out and I'll hop into a tree. And a lot of times I'll just stuff this in my pack. And once I get into a tree, this will actually become my outer layer just while I'm stationary. And so it's such a versatile piece, man. So I was just super stoked on it because it's that piece that allows me to get through the entire season where I almost never wear a full jacket as an outer layer. It's always a vest at most with this underneath of it. And that's why I was so stoked, because the profile on this thing is just so thin that it's literally nothing. It allows me to stay kind of bulk free while I'm in the tree and not change how I'm drawing and all those things that are critical when you're bow hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've gone as far as we're super like those -30 temps that might go under my Fanatic, or in those other temps this is going under my Stratus. So
Right.
it really allows you. I consider it almost a season extender
Yeah.
to any piece in your line. So if you're wearing your base layers, it extends the season of those. If you're just wearing it as a regular layer, that's how it extends those. You can throw it under your Stratus or other outerwear windstopper pieces, and it's again going to add another 10 to 15 degrees. And so I just consider it your season extender, basically for any piece that you have in your Sitka gear line.
Right. Yeah, I love the way you kind of frame that, where it extends the stuff that you're using. That's kind of the name of the game. And I think, whenever people are putting their kits together, it's like you just have to think about how the things kind of piece together, what temps you're going to be kind of hunting in. And to your point, I love the way you kind of said that. It's like, how do you extend the pieces that you're using? Because if you get the right pieces, man, you can hunt in some really cold temperatures without having to have a lot of individual pieces of gear, things that will play double duty and things of that nature. So yeah. As you can tell, I'm kind of in love with this piece. But what color? So I have I think it's pyrite. I think it's the color I have now, and I think I have like an actual elevated 2 on the way. So what colors is this all going to be available in?
Yeah, it's pretty much available in any pattern that we have, any Optifade pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not you're a waterfowl hunter, big game hunter, you'll be able to find the hoodie and the jacket and those pieces. And then there's some solids. So typically pyrite's the color that we see associated with the big game hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be available in pyrite, black, and then lead, which is gray,
Mm-hmm.
and then mud, which is a brown color. So
Mm-hmm.
those are a whole host of whether or not you're looking for more of a hunt solid color or you're looking for a pattern. There's quite a bit to choose from.
Awesome. Sweet, man. So is there anything that we've left out or that we've missed that's new, or anything that is coming soon that we should mention that I might not be aware of? Or is that what we're rocking with for this fall to this point?
Yeah, I think those are definitely what the items that you need to be looking for at retail.
Awesome. So the one question I wanted to save for you is a little bit of a surprise question. I'm always curious. You and I have talked about gear so many times now, and I don't think I've ever asked you this. And I think it's one of those things that's near and dear to, especially, whitetail hunters' hearts, because we like our gear so much. So I'm always curious, and I want to ask you, what is your the piece of gear in your kit that you cannot live without? The piece that, if you left it at home and you're in your truck driving to hunt, that you would absolutely turn around and go pick it up, that you can't hunt without it. What is that? What is that one piece?
That is a tough question since I have all of them.
Yeah.
But,
So this could be, so we'll do it two different ways. What is your favorite? What is the piece of gear, Sitka specific gear, that you can't live without? And then give me one piece of gear that is not your apparel kit that you can't live without.
yeah, so I would say, in the Sitka piece, the ambient, that layering insulation. I mean, I know we just talked about it, but it literally is in whether it's my tool bucket, my tool belt, my, cargo box pack, whatever it's in. that's always pretty much going to be as soon as the temperatures start to chill
Mm-hmm.
any bit, all the way through the end of the season. That's the one piece of apparel that I always gonna carry in my pack.
Right.
Um, so that's just something that I always want to have.
Right. And so then outside of pieces of Sitka, what is the one other piece outside of Sitka gear that you have to have that you can't live without? So this could be saddle, sticks, bow, arrows, calls, whatever it might be. What's that one other piece that you have to have?
Well, I mean, besides snacks in the stand, obviously, I would definitely say, my rangefinder is something that I'm always using.
Right.
So, I run with, a loophole rangefinder, and I use it as soon as I get up in the stand, and I'm usually ranging as soon as I can get some light in the sky,
Mhm.
especially if I have not hunted area in a while, just to get my fixed points so that I don't have to pick up deer later on. Like I try and grab a couple of points, even if it's too dark. I'll usually range where I can see the outline of something, then point it to the sky, and
Right.
then get those ranges, just so that I know if something is coming in, and I'm not going to maybe have time to be able to get a good range. I find that from a bow hunter standpoint is the most important piece from an ethics
Yeah.
and hunting, trying to get a good kill situation.
Yeah, that's a great answer because I don't know that anyone who I've ever asked this question to, I don't know that rangefinder has come up. Um, and as you were kind of saying, I'm like, yeah, like that would be. Now I have some buddies who shoot a lot of 3D archery that they're always and compete, so they're always having to range without a rangefinder, and so they're good at kind of knowing what distances are, and so they may not be as tied to it, but I'm certainly tied to it, and I would actually have to echo your same sentiments about just my, now this year it'll be the ambient piece, but just like in the past, it was whatever that puffy insulation layer was, that was the must have, because I can literally forget almost any other, a layering garment that I have. And as long as I had that, I knew I would at least be warm enough and I could go hunt. Like even if I was in like a t-shirt, um, I always think boots, but I literally have left the house in my Vans sneakers before and hunted in my Vans. And so that was just, I was all excited. I left work early one day to go hunt. This is like 2 years ago, ran out of the house, forgot my boots, got to where I was going to hunt. And I was like, man, I forgot my boots. And all I had on was like old school Vans, like slip on skate shoes. And, and I was planning just to hunt from the ground that night. And it was funny because I actually, like, after the hunt, I was like, man, maybe I should start wearing these more often, because I was so stinking quiet, because I could feel like every like stick or rock or acorn underneath my foot because the soles are so thin. And then I ended up just being super quiet in the woods. And I was like, maybe I'm onto something. Maybe I should just start wearing Vans to hunt. But
You can definitely sneak in, and it certainly makes a difference over when I'm wearing like a hard
yeah,
Vibram soled boot. It's like you can't feel the ground, so you're just like, oh, pop the stick.
yeah, exactly,
So, but yeah,
exactly.
my footwear changes depending on the situation. That's the one thing I thought boots when you asked that question, but I'm always adapting my footwear. If I'm on an antelope hunt, I'm basically going to run those small, sneakers, most likely,
Okay.
style footwear where I can feel the ground and they're mobile. If I'm big game hunting, I'm going to be wearing, like a crispy style boot.
Hmm.
And then, if I'm, whitetail hunting, depending on, it could be a regular hiking boot like that. It could be a rubber knee high, and it could also be a pack boot.
Hmm.
I made the mistake my first year of going to Canada in a pair of 1,600-gram rubber boots, and I spent one whole sit with my head leaning against the tree, just waiting for the hunt to end, because I thought I had the right footwear, and and the
Hmm.
guy I went up there kept telling me to have the pack style boots, and yeah, I definitely learned my lesson. So for cold weather hunts, I'm actually running very pack style boot.
Hmm. That's interesting. I don't change mine up a whole lot. Like I use like a regular, something that would be akin to a crispy. I usually am wearing Kenetrex a lot of the times. What I'm using, like the hiker style. I think they're the
Yep.
hard scrabbles with the hard sole. I just like a hard sole, especially for hunting out of a saddle. If my feet are going to be on a ring of steps or on the edge of a platform, I just don't want anything that's going to be able to dig into my foot. But I have worn in the past, like almost like tennis shoe hiker style, like Solomon's, like boots, you know what I mean? Like that are really kind of, light. They always kind of fall apart on me. But no matter what temperature I'm hunting, now Canada minus 30, different story. But for me, even late season, like I just don't wear anything with insulation because my feet sweat. And I actually can keep them warmer if I don't have any insulation. And I just take a wool sock and I cut them in half, like just longer, like about to mid arch. And I take that wool sock and just pull over the tips of my boots. Like if I do that, like I can last with non-insulated boots all the way through the entire season.
Yeah, that's and everybody has their own method for doing that. But yeah, I think that's a great approach because if you go in with sweaty feet and then you sit still, you're pretty much toast.
Yeah, you're miserable. But well, cool, man. We've been jamming for about an hour. I appreciate you coming on and giving me the straight dope as far as what's new with the gear and kind of walking through all the pieces. I always say this every time I have you on. Like you guys do such a great job of kind of anticipating what people are going to need and always pushing the envelope and like the latest and greatest technologies and thinking about the hunter first. So always appreciate that. Always appreciate you coming on. Let people know before you get out of here where they can find out more information about Sitka, the places they should visit to check this stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say if you have a retailer that's near you that carries Sitka gear, go in and talk. They're always going to be, in the most case, really educated on the product because they're really good retail partners. And then SitkaGear.com if you want to just dig in on the details of the product and geek out on that stuff. Watch videos is a great place to go in and learn more.
Yeah. And then as you hit their website, sign up for their mailing list. That way, as new things are coming out, you guys are the first to know. So awesome, Chris, brother. I appreciate you, man. Congrats on the successful elk hunt and good luck on getting your son back out after that muley. Hopefully he fills a tag and keep me posted on how your whitetail plans play out this year. I'll send you some texts as things are going along here on the East Coast.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see it.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. If you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there as well. I'd be super appreciative if you do those couple things for me. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Tethered, Spartan Forge, Exodus, and Skull Brew Coffee Company. And until next time, we'll see y'all.